Like, it was clear they put so much into this game, hoping to get that horror feeling back. And in my opinion, they succeeded with flying colors. Please give me Resident Evil 8 right now.
You did good, Ethan.
I told you to stay out of here!
What's up, everyone? It's Nick, and I'm here with Sam and Connor, and we're going to be talking about Resident Evil 7. So before we start, let's introduce ourselves. State your name, what you do for TechRaptor, and what you're playing it on.
Hello, I'm Samuel Guglielmo, and I'm playing the game on a regular PlayStation 4 and with PlayStation VR. I also have the review copy from Capcom because it's important you know that.
And I'm Connor Foss. I write some news and some opinion pieces on TechRaptor. I'm playing Resident Evil 7 on PC, the Steam version, not the Windows 10 version.
How is the PC port, before we start anything? Like, is it shitty?
Oh my gosh, it's so well optimized, and I feel like even at lower settings for lower hardware, it's so smooth. I don't think it ever dipped below 60 frames per second ever.
If only every other developer did that. How does it run on in VR?
It runs really well in VR. There's an obvious hit in how good it looks. It still looks really good. They also have a ton of options in VR, which surprised me. You can put a border around your game to help in case you get weird when you get close to things. You can change your default walking speed so you can move as fast as you want. It's really, really well made in VR. I'm really impressed, actually. I think we can safely say this is a full VR AAA game. There are a couple things in VR you notice too, like instead of being like in the minigame, you look down, you see Ethan's body. If you're in VR, you're just a pair of floating hands. Basically, any little interaction in the environment where Ethan would use his hands, they cut that. But it's still pretty cool.
So do you like this new main character?
Yes.
Yes, and yes with an asterisk. But he's so not emotive at first. Like, he gets better, but in the beginning, he's just like, what the fuck are you, Mia? Like, no, you just hacked into her with an axe.
Yeah, that's I don't like. A body floats up after he's crawling around this spooky house, and then he's just like, whoa, hey, and then just keeps going.
There are enough deadpan snark lines in this game that made me like him. I'm pretty sure my favorite is we have the chainsaw fight with Jack. At one point, he picks up the chainsaw and goes, groovy, and Ethan immediately responds with like such a deadpan, that's not groovy.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. He gets better, but he starts off like so quiet. Like, he gets his hand chopped off, and he's just like, oh god, this hurts. And then he's like, I'm fine.
He's probably the toughest Resident Evil character, that's for sure.
He goes through a lot.
I just love that his last line is like, oh, it took you guys long enough. So I'm kind of annoyed how much of the end is given away in the trailers.
Capcom is extremely famous for that, and for that reason, I didn't watch any of the trailers, because back in like Resident Evil 5, they revealed the entire plot. And so I learned my lesson, and I'm really glad I didn't, hearing that now.
So back to Resident Evil. One thing I like is that every single time you run into Jack, he has a different weapon.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many
he has like
little...
a sledgehammer, a shovel.
Yeah, then like a big axe, and then his dual chainsaw anime weapon.
That's not groovy.
But I like the little details in this game. Like, it really... Like, it's not very long, and it's not as big as what I'm used to with Resident Evil, but it felt just a lot better.
Sorry, just real quick, how long did it take you guys to finish the game? Because it took me, I think my final playtime was a little under 9 hours.
Mine's about 9.5. But the thing is, I have to disagree with that, though. People are always saying, like Resident Evil 7 is really short, and I'm like, is it really, though? Just because Resident Evil 6 had, like, 4 campaigns and stuff like that, I have to say, this game didn't overstay its welcome.
From 5 and 6, even some parts in 4, I get, like, fatigued. And
basically half of the castle.
Yeah, and this one, like, I didn't really get tired of the game.
Maybe near the very end, the salt mine, I thought went on too long.
Yeah.
But then right when it starts getting long, it, like, ends. But it didn't feel linear at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
no,
it's
makes
open.
Sense.
It's like open progression, basically.
Yeah.
Sort of reminded me more of a Metroid game, which is fine with me. But can't think of any time I had to backtrack outside of just once to get the grenade launcher, and even then it's like, oh, I got a key for a room I was in before. Let me just run back real quick and do that.
And usually, if it has you go back into the same area for whatever reason, you generally are going into a different part of that area. It was cool. Like, they didn't waste any space, I guess, in the mansion. Can we talk about them for a second? I love the
Yeah.
enemy designs in this game.
I love that
'Cause-
there's not a million enemies like right away. Like that's the thing
Oh,
I hated
yeah.
about 6 is that when you're Chris, you fight like dragon men and then other guys with like arm things. It was too much happening at once.
And that's why I like 7. I mean, I liked Resident Evil's 4, 5, and 6 as like action games. I'm not going to deny that. They're fun action games to play
Yeah,
for me.
I totally
But-
love 6, but for other
But-
reasons.
Yeah, but the thing is, I liked that 7 went back. It's not. It's a much more personal scale. It's not like 5 and 6 where there's a world-ending apocalypse every week of the year, basically. It's just they scaled everything back. They're like, this is a story about a guy trying to save his wife from the crazy people.
What was your favorite part of the game?
I think I mentioned it before, but the Saw fight against Jack was probably my favorite. It's just like it's just like a cool melee boss fight with chainsaws because it's Resident Evil and has to be ridiculous. And it was just like a really cool fight.
I think mine is getting your leg taken off. Like I love that they did that. They didn't just make that a cutscene.
Oh yeah, they did like the way you progress through the game changes like cutscenes and how the game plays out,
Mhm.
which was cool. But my favorite thing is the variety of bosses. None of them play the same. In the very first boss, like shocked me in the fight with Jack in the garage. And I
Yeah.
was like I didn't realize you're supposed to run his ass down with a car.
Oh, I
like,
wasted
that
all
was-
of my bullets and then finally went like, fuck this, I'm going in the car.
That's not how the fight has to play, because you can screw up and Jack can get in the car.
I had that happen to me the first time, and I died, and I thought, oh shit, like I must have to get him out or get in there first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so,
remember
by
you
the way-
mentioning this a while ago that it's kind of open.
Yeah,
Oh
like,
yeah.
that boss can go several different ways depending on how you play it.
Like I was afraid this game was gonna be a lot like PT or the fuck is that other game, the green one where you have the camera?
Outlast.
Outlast. Yeah, and I was afraid there was gonna be a lot like PT and Outlast where it's just jump scare after jump scare after jump scare, but it's not.
Yeah,
I
they let
was-
it hang for a while, like, and they give you that creepy tension, like the gross contaminated room. Ugh. Like,
Yeah, that's why the
they-
basement thing got me the most, because it's just a slow.
yeah, they let it
moment.
put you in a false sense of security, and then bam, now you're being dragged by your feet up into the attic. You better shoot this bitch, or you're gonna die.
Okay, so what did you guys think about the puzzle design?
I don't want to
It-
see no more shadow puzzles, please.
I like the shadow puzzle though. It wasn't too hard to figure out, but it was still kind of interesting.
Actually, what got me in the very first one was I solved it and then I stared at it for 5 minutes, like, why isn't this registering? Turns out you have to hit OK.
I loved the puzzle design, and in particular, the way that the game uses VHS tapes to keep you from fucking yourself over in the end. Like, there's this one tape, the Happy Birthday one, where you play as Clancy from the demo, and you're trying to get out
Clancy.
of that, like that saw room, basically. And then later on, you're put as Ethan into that exact same room. And so you know the password because you saw it in the VHS tape. Like, the way it uses those VHS tapes to foreshadow puzzles coming up later on for you so that you don't make the wrong decision is a really, really cool concept that I really liked.
I liked him a lot more than previous games. Like I wasn't just lining up stupid shit or, like when that first puzzle comes up and it's, oh, you got to find all the dog head pieces. I got kind of pissed off. So I thought, God damn it, the whole game is gonna be this.
I mean, there were no slider piece puzzles, and that's really all I needed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would have just pissed me off, but they knew not to do it.
What did you expect out of the story going into it, and were you surprised with how it ended?
Not quite sure what I expected going into this story, because I avoided I remember seeing the last trailer. I remember seeing some people saying it spoiled too much, don't watch it, so I skipped that one. But I'm not really sure what I expected. I kind of just figured it would be a small contained thing with the Baker family, and it was, so I was pretty happy about that.
I expected it to continue on from Resident Evil Revelations 2, and so I was very surprised when that was not the case. It really ended up being like sort of a standalone game, but with like a bunch of smaller connections to other games. I was surprised that they did that. Like, I know they did that with Resident Evil 4, where it's like, oh, you're Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil 2. But this time, there actually was a story that was very closely tied to the main plot in terms of like characters and corporations and stuff. Like, on the surface level, it's a guy searching for his wife from a crazy family. But then there's also, like I said, the HCF, who are Umbrella's competitors, and they're the reason this is all happening. And at the end, Chris Redfield shows up. Well, probably Chris Redfield. Maybe Chris
Hey,
Redfield
Redfield.
shows up.
That was
And
clearly Claire.
A Chris that went back in time, and he looks like this. Chris looks like the Chris from Code Veronica,
yeah.
not the Chris that we're used to.
Yeah. So I think the story it did surprise me, but I also liked that it was like half standalone where you're just playing as a guy who has no relation to any of this, and half like no, it's actually pretty important to the plot. You're playing as a guy whose only relation to any of this is that he's married to the chick who is the agent that is for the big corporation, and she's who's tasked with guarding this girl, and who goes like it just snowballs from there. I like that they managed to make the story where you just have that one tenuous connection to all this insanity, and it can affect your life that badly.
All right,
We need more
final question, and then I'll let everyone go.
Okay,
Would
Final
you-
Fantasy.
Yeah, I know. Would you recommend this game?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm currently writing the review for it for Tech Raptor, because that's why I got a review copy. Turns out I actually have to do work, but I'm probably going to be giving it like a 9 point, maybe 0.5, maybe 9, but like it's going to get like super high recommendations. You should buy this game. It's great for everyone.
I agree. I completely recommend this game. It really brings back that old school feel, but in a new first person perspective, which really doesn't feel all that out of place. Because you think with fixed cameras, you don't know what's around the corner. In first person, you don't know what's around the corner. They built the atmosphere up so perfectly. You can tell they really, really cared about the game that they were making, and they really wanted to like scale it back, bring it back to like horror. And in my opinion, they between the gore system, which is just disgusting, and after like all the whitewashing of gore from 5 and 6, where everything was censored to hell and back, like to see it actually come back to the gross, like body horror, gore everywhere, I loved it. So they cared about that. They cared about the atmosphere. They cared about like the level design. Like it was clear they put so much into this game, hoping to get that horror feeling back. And in my opinion, they succeeded with flying colors. Please give me Resident Evil 8 right now.
Awesome.